Hello and welcome to Conversations with Terryanne. And today I'm excited to host Makena Njeri. Makena is not a new face to most of you. She is the founder and CEO of the Bold Network. I'm so excited to have you today.
Thank you.
Makena. And you have a new hairdo.
Hey, I have a new hairdo.
What inspired you?
I did it this week and I remembered, oh my God, I'm supposed to have a serious interview with Terryanne. Now, this is how the world is going to see me again.
No, but look at my hair. Like
it looks dope. It looks dope. I think for me, I was so used to just having the same cut. I was just like, it's my season for doing things that I've always wanted to do. Just be different, just be disrupt, be bold. So yeah.
So before we get into the Be Bold, which I'm really curious about and I'd like to know more of, what are these things that you have always wanted to do and didn't do?
I think I'm a creative, of course, at heart. So just constantly experimenting, constantly trying things, art, performing on stage. For me, my look was always so caged because of the corporate walls. So, you're in front of the camera, you can't do this. You're supposed to behave in a certain type of way. But now when I'm doing my own thing, I was like, this is the moment, this is the season for me to do everything that I've always wanted to do.
I love that. And, hair is a lot more political than we actually say. I mean, when I started off my TV days, and that's a long time ago.
We watched you growing up.
As a child.
Yes.
I would never have been allowed to wear something like this. Even cutting my hair short, which I did at some point, was crazy. And I dared at one point to color my hair blonde and attempted to go on air. Well, there was a time it was fine. And then one time I went almost platinum. And my boss then, Farida, stops and she's driving down out the gate and she's like, Terryanne, are you trying to be a Lingala dancer? I'm like, wig it up.
News anchor.
Wig it up. Yeah. So I really love what you've done. And if last year is anything to go by, now is the time that we should embrace who we really are, the things that we want to do. So tell me about growing up in Nakuru. How was that like? Any fond memories that you remember?
Yes. I think as I grow older is when actually I appreciate, my upbringing and just thinking about, when you're just growing and you're preteen, you don't realize those things until now is when you sit down and you're like, okay, I think that shaped me in this way. I think this is what happened that, made me become this kind of a person. So absolutely loved growing up in Nakuru, grew up in Teachers Estate all my life, for 19 years. Beautiful homestead with my parents and my brother.
Where did you go to school?
Primary, I went to Victor Academy. Then high school, I went to Nakuru High.
Oh, the Nakuru
the
High.
Nakuru High. In fact, that's how I should have said it. The Nakuru High.
They used to play amazing basketball in my time.
Yes, basketball, rugby, hockey, drama.
Yeah. Which were you in?
Drama.
Okay.
Drama. And
obviously.
Obviously. But I was also part of the cheer squad for basketball.
Yo.
So every time they're going to
there was
play,
an official cheering squad?
Official. And I was right there.
Yeah.
So every time they're going out to go and play in other different places, different schools, of course, I will be there as part of the cheering squad.
Okay.
Yeah, but very big on drama.
All right. And home, what was that like?
Home was amazing. Of course, love to my parents, my mom and my dad. May their souls continue resting in peace. Brought us up very well, gave us the best that they could ever do. Of course, it had its own challenges that I've talked about so many different times. Growing up in a homestead where there was a little bit of chaos, when it comes to how my dad used to relate with my mom, us as kids just growing up, seeing that, So they gave us the best that they could. And that's why I keep on saying right now as an adult, I appreciate that a lot. But I also don't shy away from saying that there were challenges while we were growing up. But that was their life, So now this is time for us to shape our lives and see how we can, become better human beings.
When you look back, are there things that may have happened that have shaped how you look at the world today?
Absolutely. First, I think I had to grow up very, very fast. I had to find means and ways of finding love, because sometimes it was very, very scarce. And sometimes even you as a kid, you're the one who is constantly giving it to your mom to just constantly reassure her that everything is going to be okay. When I think about it, back in the day, I used to say it affected me a lot, But right now, when I think about it, it also gave me strength. you know. It gave me strength to know that sometimes things don't have to go the way that you think they're supposed to go. Sometimes homesteads don't have to be peaceful, you know. But genuinely, what is it that you take from that that makes you decide how you want to live your life in future? So of course, there's so many things, you know, from my upbringing that have shaped me to be the kind of person that I am today. The strength that I have is not, you know, just by myself. God gave it to me. Maybe there's a reason he decided that I needed to grow up like that. But right now I see what it has done to me, for sure.
So we first saw you on TV, on Tahiti High.
Yes.
How did that happen?
Yo, Tahiti High. So when I came to Nairobi when I was 19, hustled into the theater world, did a lot of things on Kenya National Theatre.
Really?
Yes.
What did you do?
So started off with doing a little bit of set books, then now crossed over to Alliance Francaise, where I acted Heartstrings Kenya for the longest time. You know, acted with big names like Shix, Jackie Vicky, Churchill, Larry Asego, Teacher Wanjiko. Those were my people, you know, at that particular point. And now when we were on stage constantly just doing whatever we were doing, someone spotted me on stage and they were like, we want to, you know, turn this talent now into TV. And I was approached by the producer of Tahiti High, Madam Catherine Wamoyo, and she was like, we like what you're doing. You know what, we want you to act. We want you to be part of this. And I joined Tahiti High. Head girl of Tahiti High for what, 3 years? Yeah. Lovely, lovely experience. Also shaped me in one way or another, because when I think about it right now, would I do it? Would I be a head girl? No. I would do another different role.
Were you ever prefect in school?
Yes, I was. You entertainment.
Okay. Entertainment. Okay. I see you. Yeah. So after Tahiti High,
while I was doing Tahiti High, I was in school. So I was in school studying theatre arts and film productions. Started at KMC, then went to Kenyatta University. Then after Kenyatta University, I got to go to America for a break to go and study more of theatre arts, then came back. When I came back, of course, there was that option of either continue with acting, but at that particular point, when I think about the industry, it wasn't ready for what we wanted to do, the kind of roles that we wanted to play. So I was like, let me do exactly what I studied in school, which was, you know, film production. So got a job with NTV. But actually, just before I got the job with NTV, in 2011, I did a movie in South Africa.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Tell us about that. I didn't know about that at all.
Yeah, there's a movie I did in SA called The Inside Story. Very good movie about HIV and AIDS, and, you know, just at that particular point when it was very rampant. So that is also there. In fact, this is such a good interview because now people will know.
Where is it? Where can we see it?
I think it's online. I'm going to look for it, and if I find it, I'll send you, and you can put a link.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Did you produce it?
No. I was part of the crew, so I was acting.
Wow.
Acting. Yes.
You're an international actor.
Yes, I am. Kenya, Waniwezi, Terryanne.
I love that. So NTV happened?
NTV happened, got my job. Teen Republic, produced Teen Republic for a few years, then moved to The Trend, produced The Trend as well. Then after that, now the big break came and I moved to the BBC. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What was the BBC like? You know, I remember when the BBC came, you know, like BBC's opening an office in Kenya, and just the excitement we could feel, even in the newsrooms. You're like, you know, we could actually say, this is the BBC.
Exactly.
You know, the way they used to say it those days. What was that like for you?
Yo, the BBC, right now when I think about it, the biggest blessing in disguise, because when it came, I applied for a certain role, waited for 1 year for a response. So you can imagine, if you're waiting for something for 1 year, you definitely know that you didn't get it. You know, it's not there, you've moved on, I'm still at NTV. Then boom, one day I'm checking my emails and there was a response. And it was like, we want to invite you for an interview. And the rest is history, of course. So did a couple of interviews with them, very, very vigorous process. Then ended up joining the BBC as a reporter, as a producer for the biggest kids show in Africa called What's New. Loved working there and loved the experience of just talking to young people, the youth, because I think for me, that's where that's where we need to put all our focus, even as journalists, you know, because those are the people who are going to change society and everything that we want to happen. So loved working at the BBC. So if you ask me, how was the BBC? Amazing. Their structure is beautiful. They train you very well. The stories that you produce at the end of the day are just magical. So I loved it.
But then you chose to leave.
Yeah.
Who leaves such a big international role?
Just Makena.
How did that happen?
So worked for the BBC for 3 years, and last year when the pandemic, checked in, I remember my spirit started to shift. I just kept on feeling this is all I've always wanted in my life. If my parents were alive, they will be very, very proud, because the BBC is what every journalist, wants to get where they want to get to. But still, my spirit was not full. Every single time I used to come back home, I'm like, there's something else that is pushing me. I feel like I have a greater purpose in life, and for me, I just kept on talking to God and telling him, you need to show me what that purpose is, because yes, you've gotten me there, you've gotten me here. I prayed and asked for this, but now again, there's something else that is badging me. So in 2019, I had a very, very bad trend, that happened. Woke up in the morning, my car was vandalized. Everybody was talking about this gay journalist who works for the BBC, threw me into a very, very terrible space, And for me, when I got out of that depression, still working for the BBC, I knew that that was my purpose. I knew that I don't want anyone else to ever be shamed in that kind of way just because of their gender identity. I knew for a fact that all the hate that I'd seen on Twitter, on Instagram, from friends, from family, both love and hate, but the hate, was what was my driving force to say, why is it that I'm such a good journalist who does such beautiful stories, but yet I can be taken down in one day because of my gender identity? And in that moment, I knew, Terryanne, that was my purpose. So, of course, I started working around what is it that I can do while in Kenya for the LGBTQ community. And I was like, I want to do Bold Network Africa. So, of course, I had conversations with my bosses, and we reached an agreement where we said, of course, it's going to be very, very hard to balance both work and now starting this organization, which needs a lot of attention. And I thought about it, prayed about it, and opted to resign. I left the BBC in March of this year, and the journey of Bold Network Africa started.
And that is such a bold move.
Absolutely.
What is the Bold Network about?
So Bold Network Africa is my child. I don't even look at it as my company. It's my child that is driven by passion and purpose, because for the longest time, also being a journalist, I realized that the stories of the LGBTQ people are never told with the decency that they deserve. Journalists do not have duty of care when it comes to the LGBTQ people and how they represent them. So for me, I was like, I'm very passionate about storytelling. I'm passionate about filmmaking. So how can I combine this now with this other newfound purpose, of just talking about the community? So Bold Network Africa pretty much is a farm that aims at telling stories of people in the LGBTQ community in Africa with the decency that they deserve. And we do it we have 3 different pillars. So the first one is storytelling. So of course, working on very many different things that are going to just start rolling out, over time. Training, because I realized that knowledge is power. I cannot blame journalists because they've not been trained about diversity and inclusivity. They don't know how to approach, they don't know how to talk to these specific people. Also, I cannot blame parents, because they don't know. They don't know how to deal with a kid who has come home and they've said, Mom, I think this is my identity. So knowledge is power, and the only way we can do that is by offering training. Then the third one, which I love, is music and arts, because we've seen what music has done to the world. Music changes, music moves conversations. And for me, it's time for the continent in Africa to start producing music that also pushes that agenda for love, humanity, love is love. It's not even music for the community, it's just music that genuinely, even people in the community can say, I feel represented by Tiwa Savage, I feel represented by Chimano, I feel represented by Davido. So those are our 3 pillars, and pretty much it's just genuinely to tell the stories, that at the end of the day are going to start changing, the laws in Africa, the different approaches, the hate, the discrimination. So that's, in a nutshell, that's what Bold Network Africa is all about.
As Africans have very strong perceptions about gender identity. The word culture gets thrown in quite a bit. Biology gets thrown in quite a bit. Religion gets thrown in quite a bit. How do you, so how's it been so far against all these currents that are pushing against you?
So this is what I usually say. When you're doing something that genuinely is going to change people's lives, I think the universe, God, if you believe in God, will constantly work in your favor. when I was setting it up, and even when I was starting, I was not thinking about the challenges. For me, I just keep on marinating in the beauty that I experience every single day. When I read messages from people and saying, because of you, because of Bold, I have been able to speak to my parents. Because of this, I've been able to go to my workspace in a suit because I can. So I marinate in the beauty. I can't say that there are no challenges. The challenges are there. We walk into spaces and still those walls come up for culture, religion, biology. We can't talk about this. Yes, we accept it, but we can't talk about it at all. So I still have to be patient with people to understand that this is something not really new, but this is something that we have to genuinely give to people in doses, and we're not coming with activism that is violent, we're coming with activism that is just, we need a bridge, Terryanne, we need a bridge. It's, you have grown up in this time, you might not understand, but you also have to understand that the generation that is coming has grown up in this time. What is here in the middle that we need is a bridge. It's for this generation to understand that this generation never knew about this. It was never talked about. So we also have to be gentle with them, but also for this generation to understand that this generation is a force that you cannot kill. We cannot continue murdering people because of their identity. So the challenges are there when we walk into boardrooms or when we start these conversations, but also the love, the appreciation, the change that has been happening is massive.
Was there ever a time you think you did not get a job because of how you identified, or any opportunity that could have come your way but didn't because of how you identified yourself gender-wise?
I think I wouldn't really single out for myself when I think about it, because I was very intentional about refusing to go into spaces where I will not be comfortable. So I know that I auditioned for roles or chose not to audition for roles because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do a mother role. Why am I even auditioning for it? For me to go into that space and get hate and discrimination. But I would say that even when I was working in the different corporate spaces, and I will isolate the BBC altogether because it's very different and it has very, very specific laws when it comes to diversity and inclusivity, I had a lot of struggles, my own personal struggles of constantly being asked, why do you dress up like that? Why are you in a suit? Kwani how do you identify? All those different kind of things. I would definitely say that I did not go on air, on screen as a reporter on different platforms because of how I am, because of how I identify, because of how my style. So the challenges are there, and I would definitely isolate different cases that I've even seen that I constantly talk about, where you find just because someone supports or talks about their support for the community, they're thrown out of shows. So it's something that is still happening that Bold Network Africa is trying to change. We are different. Like you as Terryanne, you're a human being first. How you identify is very different from how you do your work, and we have to get to that place where you stop looking at people from their identity, from their sexuality, and now look at them first as human beings. Can they be able to do their job? And that's it, So the challenges have been there.
How does it feel like, waking up every day and there might be, some sort of hate or discrimination being thrown at you? It could be social media, maybe somebody you meet on the street. How do you deal with that?
I think I was prepared for this without me knowing, from how I was brought up, my childhood. So that kind of strength right now helps me. Then the fact that now I tell my story, the fact that I stopped letting people tell my story has genuinely reduced the hate, first and foremost. What people don't know, they poke more. They poke holes into what they don't know. But now Makena has done a TED Talk and they've said they're gay. What else will you talk about? What else will you hate on? Even if you come and say, oh my God, you're gay, we don't like you. But I am. I'm not really looking for love or like from people, from strangers, from even friends or family, because I know who I am, and I'm in that journey of trying to work on how can I be extremely whole, completely whole, and 100% in my, in who I am and what I believe in, that hate does not affect me at all. So I would say maybe 3 years ago, hate would really put me down. Now, I don't even see it, even if it's there, and I don't take myself to spaces or people where I know I can get hate. Yeah.
On your Instagram profile, you identify as they, them. For somebody who does not understand what that means, how do you explain it to them?
So they, them is a term in the LGBTQ community that is a representation of people who are non-binary. So non-binary is really, for me, I don't conform to any gender norms. So I don't see the reason why we should say her, him, she. You know, for me, it's really been used to put people down. Even as a woman, we will definitely attest for Terryanne, there are times that maybe you've said you've missed a job or an opportunity because you're a woman, you know, because another man who is John, who wrote down on the paper John, and you, it's Terryanne, is like, let's give John, you know. So for me, we have given it so much power that it has been used to break people down. And for me, that's how I identify. I'm just gender non-conforming. That's how I want the world to remember me. That's how I want to be even when I walk into spaces. Don't look at me with, you're a woman, we're gonna cage you, or you are a man, we're gonna cage you. I'm just gender non-conforming, yeah, so non-binary.
And I'm sure you get a lot of people on social media saying, you know, you're setting a bad example.
Absolutely.
How do you respond to that?
Bad example to who? That's the question. I think that's the first question that I usually ask, because if that's not how you identify, how is it a bad example to you? You know, if you don't smoke cigarettes, if you see someone else smoking, how is it a bad example? If it's not something that you do, you know, it should really affect you. So those kind of comments to me are very, very shallow, first and foremost, because there's no bad example. Like, you do not train people to become queer. It's something that is innate, it's something that is people are born with, you know, medically, you know, it has very many different ways, but you cannot influence someone to be queer at all. There's a lot that happens there. There's mental, it's emotional, physical. It's not a behavior that you can pass on to someone.
Yeah. So are you dating now? What's in that space for you?
No, I'm not.
You're not dating?
No, I'm not.
Looking to date?
Hopefully. I am a very, very big believer in love. So for me, it's part of the things that genuinely ground me. So for sure, and the kind of person that I am, I definitely have to have a partner, someone who I'm going to grow old with, someone that I'm going to love. So in the moment, I'm not dating, but if it comes my way, definitely taking it in.
Okay. I'm just curious about, you know, where you're headed. I mean, there's so much that's going on around you. I love how bold you are about you know, about the Bold Network and what you're doing. What can we expect, you know, from you over the next couple of years? I know you did say when we started off, you're just embracing this new person that wants to do all these things that you've wanted to do before. So what do we expect from you in the next...
A lot. A lot. Of course, Bold Network Africa is going to continue doing the work that it's doing. So you're going to constantly see me, you know, disrupt in that kind of, you know, space. Try and challenge governments, try and challenge the Kenyan government, of course, to look at the different laws that they've put out there, which these days I keep on saying, I don't look at it as a law anymore, it's a weapon.
Actually, yeah, I wanted to find out about that. You know, some people say the law is very clear. Same-sex relationships are against the law. How do you read what the law says? And, you know, are you, as the Bold Network, doing anything to, you know, towards that?
Towards that.
Yeah.
So I've just pulled out my phone because the law in Kenya, so there's section 162 and 165. And I think for me, it's usually very vague. And that's the one thing that I'm like, it's such a vague law. Why is it even there, you know? So they speak about sodomy, gross indecency. They speak about same-sex marriage. And what it has actually done is that there's a lot of discrimination that has come out of that. So Section 162 and 165, in those different things that they speak about, for me, when I read through the law, genuinely, Terryanne, with what is happening right now to the LGBTQ community, it's no longer a law that protects anyone, but it's become a weapon. Because someone knows that there is a law, which is actually very vague, you know, they know that they can be able to bully you. Someone can kill someone. Just 2 weeks ago, a trans woman was murdered, you know, in Nairobi, just because of who they are. 2 months ago, a man was murdered, a gay man was murdered in Mombasa, just because of who they are. You know, is this a law anymore, genuinely, that we need to look at? Or is this a weapon that is killing Kenyans? Kenyans who are voters, Kenyans who genuinely walked to the poll and said, I want this to be my governor, I want him to be my president, I want her to be my woman representative. Are we genuinely, as leaders, looking at that law and saying, what is it doing to these people in this community? You know, it's stopped being a law for me. It's become a weapon. And where we are going, genuinely, that's why I keep on saying Bold Network Africa will keep on doing what it can do. You know, I speak very boldly about this kind of issues, even on my social media, for it's no longer a law. You know, I know it's been repealed in the High Court. I hope that it goes through, you know, this time round. But we also need to sit down as leaders, you know, and realize that the generation that is coming, our generation, and the one that is coming, will no longer take that kind of treatment, you know, from a law that was just set in pre-colonial times that right now is killing our people, you know. So for me, the law is very vague, and it's a weapon that is being used to murder people in the community.
As we come to the end of this conversation, Makena, I want you to speak to two people. One, a parent whose child has come home and said, this is how I want to identify with. I'm gay, and then a child or a young person who knows they are not what the world or what their parents subscribe to, but that is who they have chosen to be. What would you tell them?
I will speak to the child first, then I'll speak to the parent. For the child, I will say this. As you're growing up, stop conforming to societal norms. You know, those are things that you grow up and you're told this is the way you need to be, this is the way you're supposed to dress, this is the way you're supposed to go to church, this is the way we expect you to behave. You know, if this is truly who you are, and this is something that you truly feel, you know, in your spirit and in your soul, then genuinely start living your truth from a very young age. Start having those conversations that you feel are necessary to have, because it's important to have them from such a young age, you know, so that you don't have trauma that you're going through when you're older and trying to fix so many things that you never, you know, did. Your parents are your parents. I believe that when you're a parent and you've given birth to someone, you love them. And love from a parent should be unconditional. You know, you don't, as a parent, you don't give birth and start setting boundaries and say, if this happens, I'm not going to love them. Love should be unconditional, you know, when you have a child. So speak to your parents in a very gentle way, and I will remind them again, because your parents are from a very, very different generation. You are of a different generation. So you also need to give them time. You need to think through, how am I going to be able to speak to my parents? Because you know how your parents are. There are parents who are easy, there are parents who are, you know, ready to have this kind of open conversations. But genuinely, do not conform to society, because you don't know what you're going to do to yourself 15 years later when you're trying to find that inner child that you lost because you never spoke about it. You know, so it's important for us to start speaking about the things that matter to us, and allowing for those conversations to happen, you know. To the parents, this is one thing that I will say. Unconditional love should be the only thing that you look at when you look at your children at home. You know, how you would want your kid to be is selfish of you. If you want to hammer it down their throats, you can tell them, you can speak to them, you can say, oh, by the way, I want you to be a doctor. I would want you to get married. I will want you to, but also let them be. Because you cannot be selfish enough to want the things that you want, you know, just to be hammered down your kid. They're an individual. You know, they have their own ways of living, thinking, and all those different kind of things. And I know sometimes it can be hard, you know, as a parent, because you've already decided this is how I would want it to be, and your kid has walked home and said, Mom, I love another boy. You know, it's okay. We're not saying that in that moment, let it be okay, hug them and tell them that you love them, but also be gentle with them. The same way that I'm telling kids to be gentle with their parents, be gentle with them. Try and understand. What does that actually mean? What do you feel? You know, where did it come from? Speak to them. Do not shut them out. Because so many kids are out here living in safe houses because they've been kicked out of their homes by their parents. You know, because if they go home, they're going to be killed, you know. That's not unconditional love. So give them that gentleness, you know. And even for the parents, I will say, if you need to speak to someone, if you feel like this is a new journey that you do not understand, Bold Network Africa is always here. Makena is always here. These are the conversations that I want to keep on happening. I want to be called and to be told, come to our homestead. Even if it's 4 people, you know, it's a dad, mom, 2 kids. This is happening. How do we deal with this? You know, we have to understand that the world is changing right now, and so many things will keep on happening. It's just how we decide to communicate and to relate with each other. So love your kid, because genuinely it destroys them. It destroys them in such a big way that you will never ever be able to repair as a parent when that kid starts to find their own ways of finding love.
Wow, Makena, that is bold. That is bold, and I'm so confident that you're going so far with what you're doing. I wish you all the very best. I'm glad you're in my life, and I'm glad you're a great friend. And I can't wait to see how far you go with what you're doing. Because I know so many people who are hiding, living their life just feeling cowed because they'll never be able to, to get out. Yeah. So thank you for being bold. Chris Makena Njeri, CEO and founder, The Bold Network. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.